Hello and welcome back to part 7 of our bite-sized tutorials, interactions. And yes, I've given it a full name and I've caught up now in my video so I can actually say that name out loud. It wasn't really feasible to do that before because I did a hell of a lot of recording sort of in one day. So yeah, it has a name. So what was we doing? We made a door. We made it interactable. We're showing icons, we're showing the keys, using those icons and text, so we can interact with objects. But at the moment we've got a bit of a disadvantage, and as you can see on my screen, I don't. You see my little dot in the center of my screen? You don't have that, but I do, which helps with aiming at particular areas. Now if we chose to make this door handle the interaction, it would have been a bit more difficult to judge where it is. So ignore that over there. I'll show you that another time. That was quite fun. Yeah, I've got something just to pinpoint where we're aiming at, and it makes a hell of a difference. That dot may be quite a bit too big, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'm not going to show you how I made that. So if I come out of that now, some of you may have access to programs like Photoshop, things like that. There's other ones out there that you can use. If you don't want to pay, a good one that I like to use is the GNU image manipulation program, and that's GIMP for short. And you can download that. Let me just show you the website. It's gimp.org. So if I just bring that across, so that's it there. It's free. It's a very powerful image editor. It's similar to Photoshop in many ways. So if you don't have Photoshop, which I don't, I refuse to pay that much money just for the occasional image editing I do. It's a bit too steep for my liking, especially now the new subscription model. So I use GIMP. So you want to download that and install that. I'm not going to go through how to do that. Hopefully you guys will know how to install an app, download and install an app. Right, so I'm going to load up GIMP and put it on my screen. I'll show you how I made this dot, and it's real simple. So when you load it, if you're not a loaded image up by default, you load it up with this empty blank page. So we want to create a new one. So go File, New. This might say some arbitrary size here, or it might have a template, I don't know, but what I did, I set that to 20 by 20 in pixels. You should be able to do virtually the same sort of things like this. If you've got Photoshop and you know what you're doing with it, it should be pretty much the same. So 20 by 20, but you also need to click this drop down box, because this here, fill with, we'll say background color by default. You want to change that to transparency, which is really important. You want your background to be completely transparent. Otherwise, if you make a shape on there, you put a color, you'll have a box with a dot in it. So we'll click OK, and there we go. We have our 20 by 20 image. If you click on the zoom tool here and then left click and drag a box around it, and we'll zoom in. Right, how do we make our dot? Well, it's pretty simple. The second one across, you will probably see this icon, rectangle. We click and hold, select ellipse or press the E key. You want to make sure expand from center is off, and you want fixed aspect ratio. Yep, that on. You want that on. So if your settings are the same as mine here, that's perfect. Ignore this size. It will make. We're doing this anyway when we drag it. So as you can see, the squares. If you just click and hold on the very first square in the top left, and drag it down so the bound boxes fit perfectly, it will give you a circle. It's a bit pixelated, but that's because we're zoomed in. But it gives you a circle. Now don't click anywhere, otherwise you'll lose that, because if you do see, you're going to have to do it again. So let me just show you again. There, right? What you want to do then is make sure your forecolor, which is this one, is white. If you want a different color, that's fine. You can have red, you can have whatever you like. Yeah, just make sure that's whatever color you want it to be for your HUD. Then you want to go to the fill bucket tool, the bucket fill tool even. Click on that. I don't think it should be default to anything. Yeah, it shouldn't default to gradient, but that's what it'll look like there. But if not, just change it to bucket fill. So you got your bucket fill. and make sure it says foreground color fill, which it should by default, but just make sure it's foreground color fill, and then click in the center. Don't click any of these corners. You want to click inside this circle. There we go. And if you click on your mask again, just click anywhere there, as you can see that the selection's gone, but you now have an image, and that's your HUD dot. If you zoom out, just if you click zoom out on the zoom tool and just keep clicking a bit, you'll see you have a tiny little dot. Yep. Just zoom back in on that so you can see it. Right, so there you go, you've got your dot. Simple. You can do this anyway. You can download your dot if you want to. If you don't do it the same size as this, make sure that when you go into Unreal that you either change the size of the image box we're going to use to match the dimensions of that, or to shrink the image to match the size of the image box. You'll get what I mean when I show you in a bit, but just bear that in mind. If you do yours a bit of a higher quality and then you just want to shrink it down, make sure you account for that in Unreal. So to get this out, now you can either save this and it'll save as an XCF file if you just save it, just give it a name and put it somewhere, but I don't want to keep this because I can make this within seconds anyway. It doesn't make no difference. So all I'm going to do is export it to a type that Unreal can use, and keeping the alpha channels so we get a bit of a nice blend. So if you click export, find yourself somewhere to put it. Now I called mine HUD dot or dot, I can't remember, something like that, and you're going to put a dot as in a physical full stop there, full stop, PNG. That's important because it chooses the type of file that it's saving to based on those three letters. Okay, that's how it's doing it. Otherwise you'd have to go through all this and change it and whatever not, but we're going through selected file type by extension. .png, yeah, HUD .png or .png or HUD .png, whatever you want to freaking call it. Make sure it's .png. Choose to save it somewhere. I'm going to let me just save it to my E drive straight into the root here, and if I click export, these are the settings I've got on. Now I can't remember if I've changed any of these or whether they came as default, but I think the only thing I might have done is put the compression level up, but apart from that I don't think I've messed with anything. But that's the settings I've got, so if you have any problems, maybe suggest changing your settings to match that on the export, and then just click export. There you go. We're done with GIMP. Close that. If you want to change, save the HUD dot as an actual XCF file so it can be modified, do so. I'm going to discard it. I don't need it. So come into Unreal and go to your content drawer, and I think I'll just put mine in here for now. I really should have it in the textures folder, but I put it in my first person blueprints folder. There it is. I just called it dot. Yeah. And if you come to this folder, make sure it's highlighted and click add, or right click and click click import. Go to the drive where you saved it, and there's mine, HUD.png. Click open, and as you can see, there is my HUD dot. Yeah, 20 by 20, and that's 20. I don't know why that one's showing zoomed in and that's not. That's really strange. They're both identical in size, and they both look the same on the screen, I would guess. But anyway, I'm going to remove that because I've already got it. Delete. Yes. So you've got your dot, and as you can guess now, you want to go into your HUD to add your dot, which is very simple. So you click on your WHUD wherever you've saved it, so double click on it and open it up. Now as you can see, I've already got mine in here. So what you want to do is, in the palette here, in the search, type image, click and drag and drop it on your canvas panel. It doesn't matter if it's above or below your size box. It makes no difference whatsoever. So as you can see, I've got mine here. It's already on there. Did I hide it? Yeah, I hide the visibility. That's it there in the middle, and because it's so covered with the anchors. It's hard to see, but I'll hide that for now. So this will be here, and change the name of it to dot. So either F2 and type the word dot, or come up here and call it dot. Yeah, I'm not going to name mine because I've already got one called dot. I'm just going to show you how this works with this one. So what we want to do with this is we want to move it into the center. We want to anchor it to its center, sorry, and then we want to put its alignment to its center, and then we want to assign an image to it. Yeah, so to do that first, we'll do the anchors. So if we go to, make sure your dot is selected here, and go to anchors and put center screen, this one here. Yeah, but obviously that stayed there. Yeah, don't worry about that. That's because it automatically leaves it there because it thinks you want it there. It's really strange the way it works. It doesn't move the whole thing. So what you need to do is change your X position to 0, your Y position to 0, and now your size, you want that to be the same size as your HUD dot, which was 20 by 20. As you can see, you can't really see it. If you zoom in, you'll see it there. Okay, but it's a square box, and we don't want a square box, and it's also not centered. And that's because the alignment's not done, and that's a 0 to 1 thing, isn't it? 0, 1, so we want it halfway, so 0.5, 0.5. That centers our HUD dot, yeah. But again, it's still a square box. Let's change the image. So if you click on your dot here, come back and make sure that your dot is also selected here. So it's selected. Your brush, if it's not expanded, expand it and go to image and click the arrow key. And there you have your HUD dot. It will automatically set the image size. If it doesn't, it looks a bit stretched, just make sure it's 20 by 20, but it should automatically set. And that's it. There's your HUD dot. It was a bit of short and sweet, but there's your HUD dot. So if you compile and save that, I'm going to delete this one because I already have mine, and I'll re-show it. So there it is, exactly the same. Okay, so it's an image box dragged in. It's called a dot. The only reason I've called it dot, in case later on you want to change that. It may or may not happen, but anything that you think you might want to change, give it a name that you can use. So your anchors are dead center, your position X and Y are 0, your size X and Y are 20, your alignment 0.5, 0.5, your image is your dot image texture done by highlighting it here and then clicking the arrow there, or you can select it in the drop down box and search for whatever you've called it. Mine is called the dot. Okay, yours might be a slightly different name. Image size should be automatic 2020. If not, change it by hand if it does look a bit stretched. If it looks like that, that's fine. And then just compile, save, close that, and when you run, you'll have your HUD dot. And now you have a bit more accuracy over what you're aiming at. Much better, eh? Yeah. As I'm here, I'm just going to quickly show you this. This will be a bite-sized thing. Now, ignore that doesn't look great. I just did this as a quick test. This is like a grid of steps, and you see I've created a blacklight torch, and it's highlighting a marker there. So if I walk over, now if I stand on this, you'll see it drops down, and in the top left it says pressure switch on, and then when I let go, it comes back up, and pressure switch off. Now you might have seen tutorials for these in many places. Basically using a collision box, you touch it and it runs an animation, and it drops the box down and then switches the switch on, and then come off, it switches it off. This doesn't do that. This is a physics object. I walk on it, and the weight of the person or the play character drops it down, and then what's called a linear motor on that physics will push it back up to its original position. Yeah, so you stand on it, you step off it, you stand on it, you step off it, and there's not a single bit of animation in there at all. That was just me testing and doing stuff. There is an overlap box in there to detect the switch on and off, but as you can see, there's no No animation code anywhere, no timelines, nothing. All this does is switch and print a string to say the switch is on or off. It's all pure physics constraint. How cool is that, eh? I will do a little interactions bite size on that because it is an interactable. I'll also do the collision version, which is timeline based with animations. But I just thought I'd show that off as it was sat there. I was messing about with it the other day. Anyway, waffled on too long. I hope that was helpful to you. It was a simple but effective one, just to give you that HUD dot, give you a bit more accuracy. You could make that dot a bit smaller, but just remember, the smaller you go, the more blocky it becomes, so it may not look so good. But give it a try. You could just use a single pixel in the middle of the screen if it suits you. And you can also play around with changing the color of that dot when you highlight an object that's interactable. Let's see, you may even be able to do that in here. I haven't actually give this a try, so let me get my dot. Yeah, it does have what's called a tint here. And so because of that, as make sure it's at a variable, you could have it so it's when it shows in your interaction box, you could change the tint. Should we just try that? This is the first time I've done a little bit of live, not pre-thought out of code. So let's go into our show interact. Our show interact is the best place for it because this is when we know we're highlighting an object. So what we could do is at the end of this one, we could get our dot and then set tint, maybe set brush tint, and I'm guessing it's, yeah, set brush tint. Should we try this? Okay, and the tint color we need to drag out and probably make a slate color, maybe specified color, and we've got the red. Let's drop the blue. We got red. Okay, then we need our hide interact, and we'll do the same thing. So we get our dot, drag it out, set tint, and it's brush tint color, drag off and make slate color, and we'll change that back to white. Not sure if this will work because I've never done it before, but we shall see. There we go. Simple as doing that. Bit of anti-aliasing going on there. It's a little bit grey around the edges of it, but it's not that much that you'll notice, yeah. But that's just how simple you could actually do things. You can also add those tint colours to your text below. Have them changeable. You know, you can have it changeable based on what the user wants. What makes, you know, a visibility thing. Not really. Well, maybe a colour blindness filter. You can have an option in there for that. But you can also just let the user just choose their own colour for the highlight there. You know, they might want it to come up as red, blue, whatever. Obviously, it's got to be readable, so you got to remember whatever's in the background. But yeah, there we go. There was a quick addition to that for you. That was a bit unplanned, but it worked. It did what we want, and it just adds a little bit of difference to an otherwise bland little dot in the middle of a screen. Anyway, hope that was useful. Thanks for watching, and yet again, I will see you next time. Bye bye.